Hey guys, it's Bro You Whack, and for the first time in weeks, we finally have a meaningful blog post that involves up-and-coming hero changes that'll finally make playing Overwatch 2 bearable again. And some of these changes involve heroes like Orisa, and Roadhog, and Mei, and Bastion even, who actually just got changed yesterday. And some other heroes have been sprinkled in the blog as well that have been heavily affecting the meta recently. But let's talk about this Bastion change that literally just got hotfixed yesterday. So this is the only hero that got changed out of this whole entire blog post yesterday. But in case you guys don't know, Bastion, he received a change at the beginning of the season where whenever he transform or his reconfiguration activates, he got an additional 50 armor to his health. Now they completely reverted, they completely removed that additional health that he gained. And I know Bastion mains are gonna hate this because this is like the first time in literal years that you've been able to play your main, but the way that the developers described Bastion is that whenever he transformed, his health basically doubled, and when you're able to spit out the most DPS out of all heroes and have the most health, it seemed like, yeah, you kind of need to get fixed. But look at it this way, Bastion mains, it's not like you're gonna change their ways either way, but this means all the wannabe Bastion mains are now gonna see their way out the door and find other DPS heroes to try to cheese the meta with. And some of those wannabe Bastion mains might see their way to Illari, which is a hero that they heavily talked about in this blog post because, well, she's the newest hero that came out this season. And even Alec, who not only is the lead hero designer over at Blizzard, but also made this blog post, said that they want to make a very powerful hero like Illari, and how it's very important to have a powerful hero, unlike someone like Lifeweaver, who was complete cheeks out the gate, but now is really good. And if I could just add my 2 cents when it comes to Illari, I feel like she was the most balanced and best added hero that we've got up until that point. Like, Lifeweaver was complete booty water, and then slowly became better. Ramacha was garbage at first, but then quickly became good. Kuriko, she could make a case for like the second best added hero, but Illari, great DPS, great healing output, but the only downside to her was her secondary fire, and that's what they said that they are going to be looking into come season 7, was trying to change her secondary healing ability, trying to make it so that Illari herself is a better healer rather than the healing pylon, because they realized that the healing pylon was doing too much healing, and Illari, she wasn't doing enough healing. But then the biggest discussion of this blog post is the idea of making changes and basically erasing it, like just reverting the changes back to how they previously were. And it's very rare whenever Blizzard does this in Overwatch 2 because it's almost like artificially adding changes to the game, like just increase the number, decrease the number, and you're not really changing anything. You're just going back and forth without making meaningful impact to the game. And they even said that in the blog post that they don't really want to be doing that, but it looks like they're going to be heavily doing that in season 7, and it all starts with Orisa, who is by far the best tank to play in season 6 due to the fact that she has so much sustainability in her kit, with her Fortify, with her Javelin Spin, the fact that she's a tank and has armor, it all reduces damage. So what they're going to be doing in season 7 is reverting her Fortify damage reduction. Basically, whenever she goes into gold form, she's no longer going to get the bonus 125 health, but rather just get a bonus 75 health. Really, just going back to how she was before season 6. And Orisa's not the only hero, let alone the only tank that's getting this sort of revert rework, where they're basically just going back to a previous season of this hero. Zarya is also getting this same treatment as well, where they're going to be reverting her bubble change. In case you guys don't remember, they buffed Zarya this season where they increased the size of the bubble, they increased the health of the bubble, and they decreased the cooldown of the bubble, basically trying to emphasize bubbling your allies, but also trying to emphasize to play Zarya, because Zarya, she really wasn't the best tank to play, but now she's not the best tank. Orisa's still the best tank, but she's a really good tank because the bubbles are so potent. But now in season 7, they're going to be reverting the overall size of the bubble back to how it previously was, and they're going to be reducing the health back to 200 HP. They didn't mention anything about the cooldown, increasing it back from 8 seconds to 10 seconds, but my guess is that they're not going to be changing that, so it could still technically be considered an overall buff after the season ends, but I don't know, man. This is the only change where I'm like, I like the Zarya changes, but I can understand why you're doing it, because if they nerf Orisa, then who's going to be the best tank in season 7? Probably Zarya if they weren't reverting these changes back. But Torbjorn's also getting a reverted rework to his primary fire, where before they decreased the recovery time from 0.55 seconds to 0.48 seconds, but now in season 7, they're going to be reverting it back, changing it to 0.55 seconds. And that's a little bit surprising because I would have imagined maybe they would have made some additional changes to his turret, because especially on console, the turret is so powerful, but hey, fight, we're mainly talking about reverted changes, but the final revert change that we're going to be seeing is to Mei. Oh, Mei. So back in Season 5, Mei received a whole slew of changes. Very hard to explain in a matter of like 5 seconds, but basically they added a deep freeze effect, where if you hold your primary fire, it slowed them down, but it also gave them this deep freeze effect where if you shot your secondary fire and it exploded on them, it did extra damage. Now, they're just reverting it back. They're erasing everything that you saw in the previous 2 seasons come Season 7. Basically, they're going to be reverting her primary fire damage, increasing it from 75 damage, which is what it is now, to 100 damage. They're going to be having a consistent primary slow of 40%. There's no longer going to be that deep freeze effect, which means there's no longer going to be additional damage if you detonate your secondary fire on an enemy that has that deep freeze effect. In short, you do 100 damage with your primary fire and you do a base 75 with your secondary fire. Simple as that. And as a Mei main, you might be shocked to hear my thoughts on these Mei changes, because if I'm going to be honest here, I kind of like these changes. I liked the experiment of what they did in the past 2 seasons, trying to revert her back to her old Overwatch 1 days without completely freezing the enemy, but still having that freeze effect, and then trying to influence you to use your secondary fire more, because a lot of times you would just mindlessly spray and pray with your primary fire, but here they tried to make it a little bit more engaging to play. But what happened is that it was a very awkward experience to play Mei, to say the least. A lot of time I wouldn't even know if the enemy was deep chilled where I got that bonus damage with my secondary fire, but even if I did deep chill them, they could still use abilities to block my damage, and then at that point I'm like doing half the damage compared to my other DPS, and that's the whole point of a DPS hero, is to get damage per second, but I really couldn't do that with Mei. So while I can say that the old version of Mei is a little less engaging and a whole lot more mindless, I'll admit it, I do feel like it is a lot more effective for good Meis to use the older version of Mei rather than the newer version of Mei, because there's a lot of stuff stopping you from getting that deep chill bonus, like barriers and shields and just mobile abilities as a whole. But there were 2 additional heroes mentioned in this blog post that are going to be getting major reworks, not just changes, but reworks done to their hero kit, that being the spicy Latina mommy Sombra and the spicy hog daddy Roadhog. First, let's talk about Sombra. Now, unlike the other heroes where they listed detailed changes of what they plan to do, they only talked about the goals with what they want to accomplish with these reworks, which I personally like, because a lot of people see the changes on paper before they even get to play with them and then say, oh, this hero is going to be trash. And with Sombra specifically, they said that they want to make Sombra more engaging in fights, they want to increase the activity throughout her hero kit, and they want to keep her identity, which is the hacker spicy Latina that we've all come to know and love. And my biggest issue that I've had for years with Sombra is that I'm spending more time out of a team fight than actually in a team fight. Now, that's due to the fact that I'm garbage with Sombra. Good Sombra mains will be able to strike a good balance, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people aren't able to play Sombra with that good balance, and the thing about Overwatch is that not everyone plays Sombra or every hero at a GM level. They don't have that good balance with these heroes. They got to make it appealing for bronze players all the way to GM, and when you're spending less time in a team fight, you're not practicing Sombra. You're not getting the hang of how to manage Sombra well, and we see that with the amount of Sombra mains in game, and there's not a lot. There's not a lot of Sombra players, and that's due to the fact that she's maybe not that great, but it's also not very inviting to play Sombra because of her hero kit not really lending herself to be a part of the Overwatch experience. But now when it comes to Roadhog, the reason why people don't play him is because he's just garbage. I wish I was kidding, but no. Everyone can agree that Roadhog is the worst tank to play, possibly the worst hero, but with the up-and-coming changes in Season 7, what they're aiming to do is trying to increase his ability to protect the team and to claim space, along with trying to move the power from his one-shot capability to other areas in his hero kit, but to still keep his overall identity, basically trying to keep him the hog daddy that we all come to know and love if you're an Ana main and hate if you're like a soldier main. You see, the biggest problem that Hog has right now is that he's the only tank that purely relies on creating space based on getting kills, and that can be really good if you actually could get kills, but he can't because he lost his one-shot capability because it was so annoying. But that meant that he was basically an ult battery and a completely useless tank because he didn't protect his team, and well, now he's gonna be able to do that. What are they gonna do? Well, I hope they add a Choji ability where they allow him to expand his big old belly to be a meat shield. Will they do that? Probably not, but that would be fun, you'd have to admit. But my suggestion is to allow his self-healing ability to be spilled on the floor and basically act like a soldier healing beacon where all people in that area that's spilled heal can absorb it. It would really be the first support tank that we've gotten ever since Brigitte. I know she's a support hero, but she's probably the closest to a support tank that we've ever gotten. But will they do that? I'm not really too sure because, again, they're trying to keep the identity of Hog intact, which is him being a DPS tank. And that's what I really like about these changes, that they're not completely changing the identity of these heroes, whether it's reverting the hero changes or reworking the heroes, but they're still trying to keep the heroes intact while trying to make them better. And I can only appreciate Blizzard doing that. But let me know what you think about these hero changes and if Season 7 will be the best season play or possibly the worst season. Let me know. But I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. More Overwatch 2 videos to come, and bye.